Yes, hello, very good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope you're very well. You are very welcome. Delighted to have you join us today, whether you're watching live on Zoom, watching back on the recording, or indeed watching on our YouTube channel. I am delighted to have you with me today, and I'm really, really interested and very excited to be starting our topic for June. It's a brand new topic that we run, obviously, at the beginning of every month. And this month we are talking about the 5 interview tips that no one's going to tell you, that you'll find it very, very hard to effectively research and prep or find information from doing research analysis. And I'm here to help you with those tips over the course of the month. My name, for those of you who don't know me or we haven't met before, my name is Rob Magee. I'm the CEO here at Ingenio Learning, and we have built an incredibly successful course and platform to help people like you get hired, specifically by SaaS software and, most importantly, technology businesses. However, that being said, the type of things that you're going to hear today and see and listen and learn are stuff that you can use in any industry for any job, but certainly our expertise is definitely on that tech space. We just finished our most successful month. Just closed May, and it's our most successful month in terms of course purchases. So I wanted to say a big thanks, and I know there's a number of our students on here today. I wanted to say a big thanks to our students, and also indeed to my own team for helping us, for helping provide that kind of platform and structure and everything else that gets through. So look, let's get into the detail. By the way, delighted to take questions. So drop them into Q&A there, or drop them into the chat box, and I am delighted to take some questions right at the very end so that you can make this specific and relevant to you and maybe some of the experiences or challenges or struggles that you've got here today. And I think people in the community here are really interested to hear from other people. So get them questions coming into me over the course of the session. So what are we doing today? We are going to be talking specifically, I'm going to be talking, and I'm going to be trying to teach you and help you articulate what your CV doesn't say or doesn't show. And that is a question. It is a question that is asked all the time in an interview. Tell me about something that isn't in your CV that we need to know about you. And it's a really challenging question if you haven't prepared for it. So that's what today is all about. And you can see over the next 5 weeks, over the rest of the month of June, you'll see that Anna has put together some absolutely brilliant topics that we will effectively go and help you around. So look, let's get into the detail of it. The question, as I said there right at the beginning, is and this is an interviewer asking you this question: what should I know that's not on your CV? What should I know that's not on your CV? And if you think about that, question, if you've not prepared, knowing that that's the type of question that is asked lots and lots, the first thing you need to understand is, why would someone ask you a question like that when you've taken a load of time to to basically build a perfect CV, have it designed, well laid out, appropriately constructed so that it can work with ATS, bots, software. Why would someone ask you a question about what's not on your CV? And the reason for that, just so that you understand it from the interviewer's side, the reason that they will ask you that question is they really want to try and get to know you from a personality perspective. They want to find out a little bit more about the person that they're potentially going to be working with. They want to dig into you from a personal perspective, from an interests perspective, from a culture perspective, from a beliefs perspective, motivations, goals, etc., etc. So it's really, really important, I guess, that in the first instance that you understand why someone would want to go and ask you that question. Okay. there are three ways that I would be advising you to go and answer this question. Okay. And you can see there's three graphics or three narratives here listed out. So let's get into the detail on it. So the first one is let's get you talking about your own positive personality traits. There's a couple of modules in our Ingenio learning course, specifically in section 1. Well, there's actually 3 modules. So the first one is the Wheel of Life, the second one is the Profile Grid, and the third one is the visualization exercise. And what those 3 modules are all about is they are basically there to help you from a kind of a career coaching perspective. So what is it that you want? Why do you want it? And being able to kind of contextualize, what's going on in your personal life, and then really driving and hammering that home in terms of your work side and your job side and your career side. But look, it's really, really important that you are able to articulate really clearly what are your strengths, what are your positive personality traits, as I've said there. And if you think about that, like the really strong kind of personality traits that people want to hear about right now, like there is a huge one right now in tech clients where they're looking for curiosity, okay, as a personality trait. They are actually designing interview questions and questionnaires and assessments and psychometrics to determine if someone is of a curious disposition and a curious personality. Drive, ambition, positive, collaborative, team working. So if you think about it, what I'm trying to get you to think about is, what are all the personality traits, or what are the traits that businesses and organizations are looking for, and they call them out maybe in the job description, or they call them out maybe in their culture slide, or their culture section of their website. What is it that their people, their employees, your potential future team members, what is it that they're talking about? And it's about then connecting that with the positive personality traits that you yourself share. And by the way, there can't be any BS on this, right? You genuinely have to have these traits. So it's not a case of you making stuff up just to appease whatever these guys are looking for. It's really, really important that you talk about stuff that is actually, that belongs to you. So that's the first thing, okay? So if you're talking about, if you're talking about maybe a curious personality trait, how would you describe that? So maybe what you need to go and do is you need to, come up with a situation or a scenario when you displayed something like curiosity, and talk about that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to tell an interesting personal story. And it's really interesting, this is a lot harder than you would actually go and think. And I was kind of thinking about this over the last couple of days when I was preparing for this session. Telling a personal story, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this in the next slide, telling a personal story that is appropriate and relevant, obviously, to a job interview is, as I said, it's harder than it thinks, or harder than it may appear. So it's really, really important that you have a couple of personal stories pre-prepped, okay? And the personal stories, obviously, the really important bit here is that it is a personal story. It has to actually mean something to you. And it might be about your family. It might be about, an interest, an extracurricular interest, or a hobby, or a passion. It might be about maybe an achievement that you have got to from a personal perspective. So look, the really, really important piece with this personal story is that the personal story is relevant to maybe the question that's being asked. Maybe it's relevant to the interview setting or the people that you are interviewing with, and indeed that it's relevant, obviously, to the job or the team or indeed the business. And again, if you think about what I've said, this is, there's an exercise right at the beginning of our course that I talk about all the time, which is the Ingenio Profile Grid. which is effectively a template that we have built, helping people who interview over the last 6 years. And it's connecting 4 key pieces, and that's why I call it the grid. So it's the job, the company, the team, and the package. And you know, it's very, very important that you're able to connect all those pieces and then effectively connect that back to some kind of story. So that's really, really important. And the last way then that you can tell someone something about you that maybe isn't on your CV is maybe where you tell them a little bit about maybe what your personal motivations are, your goals, your dreams, your plans for the future. And if you think about it, in a typical CV format, there is no section. That basically where you will basically talk about your motivations, goals, or dreams, which is a real shame, okay, an absolutely real shame. But look, it is the reality of a situation whereby maybe someone doesn't know anything about what it is that you want to be in, you know, in 3 years' time. And by the way, it doesn't necessarily need to be. It doesn't necessarily need to be about the job or the role that you're going for. I was speaking to a guy yesterday who was telling me that he was big into athletics as a kid, and he's completely fallen off, and he's moving city, and he's joining a new athletics club, and his absolute dream is to go and get his coaching badges to become not a professional, I should say, an amateur athletics coach. Now look, that's definitely not going to be on your CV or your resume, okay? But that's really interesting in terms of, you know, if you think about that avenue of communication or that avenue of that story, you're able to go and have a conversation with something that's completely disconnected from work, but that you undoubtedly can connect back to work, maybe from a performance perspective or a team collaborative perspective or a training perspective, whatever the case may be. So just really have a think about that. What are your personal motivations, goals, or dreams? And how can you roll that up and basically go and tell a story off the back of that? So that's really, really important and interesting. I'm going to just, I want to just show you something for a second. And this is a candidate that we work with, that we have been working with. And this guy is, sorry, my CV has literally just failed me. Sorry, guys, just give me 1 second and I'll get get this piece up. Beg your pardon. Beauty of Zoom. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to show you the CV and profile of a candidate of ours who has undoubtedly told his story through his CV. So again, don't forget what I said earlier on. The question is, tell me something that's not on your CV. What Javi is telling a huge amount, not just about himself, but also about what it is that who he is and what he's really interested in. So you can see, look, straight away in the profile piece, there's a visual, a very cool visual picture that is relevant and relative to the industry that he works in, which is creative and design. Tells a little bit about, you know, what he does and where he, you know, what he wants to go and do. You've got his experience, you've got his education, you've got his skills. And then we start to think about and talk about some of the achievements that this guy has basically done. So he's now connecting his work life with some of the things that he's personally proud of. You can see there, he's a heavy technical background. I'm a nerd and I'm proud, right? So that tells you a lot about the personality and the character straight away, okay? As we drop down onto the second page, I think this is amazing, right? He then starts to visualize the films and books that he is interested in. Why does he do that? Because he wants to tell the people that he's interviewing with a little bit about his personal interests. Again, from a creative perspective, what this will do undoubtedly is that this will drive some topics for conversation as part of the interview. On the last piece down here, you can see here He talks about languages and his capability there from a multilingual perspective in a visual way, which is great, fantastic, no issues at all. But look what he does now down at the hobbies piece. He is basically talking about connecting his personal life into his work life. And you can see there that he's laid out, you know, that he loves spending time with his family. He loves to get more tattoos. He likes watching he likes watching Barcelona play football, having beers with his friends. So straight away, what you can see there about this guy is he is telling a story. And he's telling a really, really interesting story that relates to some of the things that are basically going to be asked as an interview question, and indeed some of the things that are basically going to come up as part of like a kind of a traditional kind of interview process. So what that starts to do is that then starts to basically give you some real meaningful context in terms of some of the questions there that we were asking about, which is specifically, tell me something that's not on your CV that I want to hear about that's interesting, okay? The template I've built for you here is how to answer that question, okay? So what I want you to go and do is so this question is coming at you in an interview, right? It is coming at you, so you need to be prepared for it. The first thing I want you to go and do is tell your story. It needs to be no longer than 60 seconds. So between 30 and 60 seconds. It needs to be really personal and really interesting. If you're going to tell a story that is going to bore someone to sleep, then clearly it's not a relevant or appropriate story to go and tell, because it's not going to light someone up, okay? So you've got to make it really personal and really interesting. And the last thing, and this is utopia, is you need to connect it to either the job or the organization. So you really need to think about that. Tell the story, make it really personal and interesting, and connect it to the job or the company that you're going for. And look, to all of you who are on the call today and live tuned in today, my offer to you is that if you want to go and record that story, that 30 to 60 second story, record it on your phone, ping it through to me on email. I'll have a look at that story and I'll give you some feedback. I'll give you some critical feedback on it, whether it's good, bad, and different. And I'll maybe give you some tips in terms of how you might be able to improve that. Okay. So look, that is a way of saying, look, thanks a million for coming on to the session today. And I'm delighted to go and help you out with that. Details at the end there in terms of how to get that message to me. So look, let's get into the Q&A, right? Really, really quickly. We have built this course, Ingenio Learning. We've built this course to help people like you get hired by tech, software, and SaaS organizations. And we're really, really proud of that stat. 90% of our students get hired within 90 days. This is some blurb about what some of our previous students have said, and more importantly, have done and gone on to do off the back of taking our course. That stuff is all up on our website. You can go and have a look at that. This is really interesting for me. Whether you want to go and work for a massive tech or software business, whether you want to go and work in a tech division of, let's say, for example, a bank, or whether you want to go and work for a startup, scale up, whatever the case may be, we will help you get hired by those organizations. And that, from an outcome perspective, if you're tuned in today, you're tuned in because you're looking for some kind of help or some kind of assistance or motivation or whatever the case may be. And look, we can help you get to that endpoint vision goal, like a lot of other students of ours have done. The gift to you guys today, there's a 70% discount off our standard price from on the course. And you will be sent some details straight after the call. But look, I really want you to try and have a think about, what does 30 euros mean to you? What would that dream job, dream business, dream team, dream role, how does that relate to that amount of money from an investment, time, energy, commitment perspective? That's really important to go and have a think about. We also have a one-to-one offer, which, so if you've got an interview coming up, maybe a second or third round interview that you're maybe a little apprehensive about, nervous about, that you want to go and test or challenge yourself against, there is the opportunity to go and do a live one-to-one specifically with me to help you get ready for that. And if you want some more information, type more info into the chat box, and Alex and Lisa will come back to you.